And welcome in episode 69 of Inside the Game, the podcast. A very nice episode 69. Welcome in, everybody. Nate Wangler with you. Make sure you like, subscribe, give us a follow here on NSN. Little update for you guys. No Jonathan Turner today, so we will be going at this one without him. He's got a little sickness going on, but today is a really important episode on the brink of episode number 70. It is kind of crazy to consider that we've been at this for as long as we have. We appreciate all of our followers, you guys following along on social media. We got a lot to tackle today. Also wanted to give a thank you to Lily Jekyll. I know we have that My Game, My Story segment up on NSN. If you want to go check out that interview, one of the top prospects in the country, one of the top prospects in the state of Michigan, got to have a conversation with her as we continue to get closer and closer to that season, and soccer continues to ramp up more and more, guys. We're right on the brink of our favorite time of the year. Got a lot of stuff going on right now. We got NBA playoffs. Obviously, we're getting into the warm months, specifically here in the Midwest. And it's interesting because when I have conversations with people, and I just wanted to point this out really quick, we are still MSN. We went through a branding change, and I know a lot of you that follow along with what we've done for the longest time in the state of Michigan are a little confused, especially in some of the conversations that I've been having out there. We are still NSN. We are still MSN. We're the same thing. We cover a lot of the stuff in the state of Michigan, but now we're just trying to attack it from a national perspective. So that's why you see the change in branding. So I thought it was important to throw that out first and foremost. The other thing I wanted to say, though, we like to spotlight talent here on the National Soccer Network, right? My game, my journey, my game, my story. If you want to go fill that out, if you want to go put your name on our page, we want to spotlight soccer players from across the country. Go to the National Soccer Network website. We would love to get you involved and maybe get you into our studio to get an interview. I think it's great to be able to spotlight people's stories. But the other side of that is, too, part of being inside the game isn't just on the pitch, isn't just on the sidelines. It's also in the broadcast booth. That's where JT and I met. That's where a lot of the people that we bring into our company that we're trying to bring up and develop and get into more games is in the broadcast booth. And we always talk about what makes a good broadcast on this show, right? Energy, passion, enthusiasm, preparing for things. I know a lot of you that are watching this right now have signed on to do games with us this year, to live stream games. And that's something that we always kind of promise you guys. Like, we're going to bring that extra level of energy to your team, to your broadcast, because that's what we do here at NSN. And that's at least a personal promise for me, whether that's in the studio or whether that's on the field. And you need to have that in order to have a good product. You need to have that in order to get to the next level. But sometimes the hardest thing in that realm, in that field, and it's a question that I get all the time, what's the one thing I need to do in order to get better? What's the one thing I need to do in order to immediately, in this moment, take a step from where I'm at to a step to where I want to go, or a step closer to where I want to go and where I want to be? And there's a lot of different things we could talk about. And the truth is, here at NSN, we're open to all talent, right? Part of growing the game of soccer is we have to have more media attention. That transition from MSN to NSN, we still do the ranking shows. We still do all the little things we've done in the state of Michigan and in the Midwest, really, to highlight the game of soccer. Now we're just trying to take that to the national scale. But part of that is you have to have people who are members of the media. You have to have people who are part of the communication side of that. Because if we can't generate conversation, we can't grow the sport. And that's why we do this show. That's why we focus on this. But the hardest thing in what we do, and oftentimes it's the thing that separates really the good from the great in this industry, is knowing when the light goes on, when the red light goes on, it's time to go. And it's learning how to talk, even when you're not necessarily ready to talk, and just talking about anything. And that is a really hard thing to do for a lot of people, because sometimes you need guidance or you need something to talk about or something. But in what we do, there's a lot of times you're going in your career, you're going to run into a situation where the light just goes on and you just have to go. And I remember getting this advice initially from the one, the only, the radio voice of the Detroit Tigers and Dan Dickerson. We were at a broadcasting conference, I myself personally, a few years ago, and I remember listening to him talk about the different things that he does in his career and the different things that go into broadcasting. Now, baseball itself is a different beast, and I can attest to that personally because it's much different than a lot of the other sports that we see around. But the one thing that, again, inextricably links all broadcasters, and it's what Dan said to this young broadcaster who raised his hand and asked that same question that I just mentioned: what do I need to do in order to immediately get better? He would talk about how, when he's driving down the highway, oftentimes he will just stop and for 10, 15 minutes we'll just talk about what's around him. What signs he sees on the street, what's going on with the cars around him, where's he going, why is he going there? And it's because it puts him mentally into this place, even just going into a game, to where he's ready to just talk, because that's a very, very hard thing to do. But one person that I know that's worked really hard with our company, someone that we've spotlighted a lot on our show and apparently is a frequent flyer now on our podcast, that knows a thing or two about seeing the red light go on and just having to lock in and do their best job. He's had his date in the NBA, and he's also been on our show multiple times. It's the one, the only, John Natale. Welcome in, John. What's up, man?
Thank you, Nate. How are you, man? Happy belated Easter. Hope you and all had a very safe and happy holiday this past Sunday.
Oh, it was great. It was busy on my side. Obviously, we talk about minor league ball was in town, but I mean they're off to an unbelievable start. The vibe's good in the building. Thing is about the Tigers, I mean they've gotten to a point now where I feel like they've developed well enough to where the minor leagues are just that much better. We got a lot of different prospects to look at, a lot of different exciting players, but also close race with the Guardians too. I think that's going to be a good run.
Just a tad bit of a tight race.
Yeah. So
no, that's the AL Central. It's Tigers or Guardians at the end of the day. The rest is just kind of mush to plow through or whatnot. Yep. But no, they're playing good baseball. Guardians got a big win against the Yankees yesterday to kick off that series, which is always, I don't care what team you root for. That's always a beautiful thing. But the Tigers are playing great baseball up there. Got what's it, Kubel? Is that his name? The
Skubal, yes.
Skubal, all-world pitcher, just everything. That guy is phenomenal. Sticks are coming around. You guys are solid 1 through 9. It's a tough squad. It's going to be, when those showdowns come, mid-July, August, late September, between the Tigers and the Guardians, that's going to be a hell of a series.
Well, and too, intrinsically as an Ohio guy, I mean, anytime that Michigan and Ohio have the two best teams in whatever league it is, and you get those matchups either late in the season or in the postseason, like we saw it last year, I feel like it just adds a new level to everything.
Well, you look at it now, and let's go to a Detroit team that, I don't want to say pulled off the inevitable yesterday, but going into Madison Square Garden, winning game 2 in a rabid environment.
It's true.
Everybody just is pegging the Knicks and Celtics in that bottom bracket, and to go in there and win pretty convincingly. I think the score was a lot closer, even though it wasn't that close. It was a lot closer than it seemed that it was. And I go back to 2006, and Pistons fans may hate me for this, but when a young LeBron James scored 25 straight points in both fourth quarter and overtime to eliminate the Pistons, I think what the NBA needs, and it's getting watered down because of these super teams, because of your Celtics, because of the Lakers, and people are just bringing in all. Look at the Cavs, look at the Pistons. Yes, we have Donovan Mitchell, who I think is a superstar, but outside of that, Evan Mobley's very good. Jared Allen's very good. Darius Garland's very good. But then look at the Pistons. Cade Cunningham is coming into his own, and you have a lot of role players around. Jalen Duren, right. I mean, the guy's a double-double machine. But when you look at that atmosphere, does the NBA want to see Cleveland and Detroit in the Eastern Conference Finals to bring back that excitement when LeBron was there, when all that happened? And then, of course, Cleveland would move on and play the Lakers in the finals and make it the whole story. But that's just my
right
thing. But I mean, it's kind of like soccer. and what we were talking about the other week with the US Open Cup and everything. What do the fans want to see? Do they want to see a UPSL team get there and win? But the fans are, well, I don't know who any of these players are. They're from Southern Wyoming, and I can't get behind them. There's no star power. Who am I paying to watch? Who am I taking 3 hours of my time to watch? Or do you want to see two teams that we respectively here in Indiana and you in Detroit are going to play, the Chicago Fire and Philadelphia SC, in the finals, but you're going to watch watered down rosters like Jonathan had talked about. So what's the silver lining there? I mean, as fans, yes, up in Michigan, do you want to see the bad boy Pistons back to go in their prominence with your Joe Dumars and Isaiah Thomas, John Sally, Bill Laimbeer, all those guys? Or do you want to see this young group? And do you want to see a young group of Cavaliers? Do you want to see a young group of Oklahoma City Thunder and teams like that? Or is this star power driven to boost ratings, to make money and all that? Is that, as you mentioned, the talent? You're always looking for talent, right? Well, is talent going to supersede at the end of the day when there's a dollar tag next to it?
Yeah. Right. Well, and the other thing, and I'll say this, at least about the NBA, it is star driven. It is star driven, and it is player focused. I mean, look no further than what the Nuggets did, and in firing their head coach and their GM just literally a week, if not days, before the start of the playoffs. It's because it's all based on superstars. They dictate the way of the league. I mean, you see it with ESPN's coverage, the way that they cover the Lakers, because the truth is they draw the money. I mean, they got the biggest fan base. It's no different than what we see a lot of times with the Cowboys. And so stars grab headlines, but I mean, to bring it back to the last time the Pistons ended up winning the NBA championship, was it something the league wanted? I don't know, but they also beat a Lakers team that was the talk of the NBA. They beat a team that wasn't supposed to lose that game. So I think there is something charming about small market teams, but at least to your point, is that what the league wants to see? Does that affect the bottom line for them? I don't know. You know, that's something clearly we've yet to see. But I did want to touch on this because I found it interesting. And I was scrolling on, TikTok the other day and watching videos, as I normally do for hours on end at times. And I stumbled across a video of it was actually Dwayne Wade, who was doing an interview with a couple of other former NBA guys. And they were talking about this team too. And the big thing this year in the NBA is that they kind of threw a wrench into, and I know this is a soccer podcast, guys, I get it. I'm not going to talk about basketball the whole time, but I want to talk about specifically what John does, which is public address announcing, which he does in the soccer space as well. So, right, it's two-sided. But the one thing that they said on this podcast was, they, in recent years, which is true, I mean, they had the longest losing streak in NBA playoff history. No one really had any issues with the Pistons. But then you go back to when they were at the Palace. Then you go back to when they had the Detroit basketball culture, which, by the way, I think is coming back a little bit now. We're going to have to see how they pack it out here in a couple of days when they're back at home at LCA. But the reason why the Palace was so special to a lot of people in that city was because, it was a barn. But listen, barn in sports terminology is not necessarily an insult. Sometimes it can be a great thing because it's a loud, rowdy environment, and you kind of feel like you're on top of people. And the one thing, and I'll share my screen here because I think it's really interesting when you look at what the Pistons were back in the early 2000s. The one thing they said on this podcast was they were so hard to play, not because necessarily the players themselves, but because of the fans. And also, one of the biggest reasons they said was because of the public address announcer himself. And we were talking about that in length. And I'll just give you guys a listen to what we got going on here, because I think it's really interesting to talk about, John, because, you don't think about people on the mics really affecting the game all that much. I mean, as a play-by-play broadcaster, I talk about all the time, like, I'm not the focus. Like, people aren't here to listen to me necessarily. They're here to see what's on the floor. You said that on a previous show, but the impact that a public address announcer can have is significant. And this is what the early 2000s intros for the Pistons looked like, and you'd understand why they got so fired up.
Piston fans, up on your feet. Time to meet and greet the Ballers representing the D. The Central Division 2002-2003 champion, Detroit Pistons. Faster guys wearing the Piston 1 from Colorado and 6'3" Chauncey Billups. 32 and 6'7" from Connecticut, Piston guard Richard Rip Hamilton. NBA's 2003 Defensive Player of the Year at 6'9", number 3 from Virginia University.
So, anyways, you get the point. Even over here, just watching it again, it's I was only 7 years old in 2003, so clearly I don't remember a whole lot of that. But even just watching it now, I mean, just chills, just absolute chills watching that. It's crazy to think how much of an impact that a public address announcer can have on the culture of a game.
That's a good mark right there. Networks of Star Power Americans love an underdog.
Yep. Yeah, that's true.
You know, to go off that point there, Nate, with John Mason, and you see a lot of it now. And I think what happened in recent years, you know, I got my first NBA game 2 weeks ago, and I had to embrace that. And I had to embrace it in a state where, I mean, in the opening line, it's welcome to basketball country.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a standard here in Indiana when it comes to basketball. It doesn't matter any level it is. I mean, there's a certain standard you have to have. And here you have to have that fire, but at the same time, you have to have such an ultimate respect for the game where you can't overdo it. Mm-hmm. Just an example, and I think he does a great job, but down in Philadelphia for the 76ers, he's got the echo on his voice. He's got the feedback, the reverb, everything like that. But that's Philadelphia. It's a major market team that has a lot of people to it. They've been around. That's kind of their culture over there, is to make it a show. Whereas here, you don't have that. You let the basketball play. But with Detroit, it's kind of, that's what Mason did. You know, that's a market where you read the room. I mean, you saw they were waving them towels and just getting ready. And who were those players coming off the bench? I mean, Ben Wallace and Richard Hamilton and Chauncey Billups, great players by all means, but Hall of Fame, first ballot Hall of Famers against the likes of a LeBron James or a Kevin Durant or anybody like that. No way. That was just a ragtag team of people they put together and just played good basketball. So I think it's remarkable, the change of when you say, well, he's a PA announcer, he just talks into a microphone. John Mason was able to read the room. And just like our announcers here, we have two great ones, Sean Sullivan and Troy Pepper, who split. They do the Fever, they do the Pacers. They just know how to read it because it is basketball country. I'm sure, you know, in Ohio, it's Sean Peebles, and he just, you know, his three, I know it drives the other fans nuts, but you know, when he does that, everybody does that as soon as someone hits a three. So everybody's got their thing, and it's remarkable of how much versatility that you have to have as a solid PA announcer. As you getting into it, you're primarily a play-by-play guy, but as we talked about offline, that what it's taught you of how to slow things down and read those rooms and know that you have one shot to do it. Play-by-play, you make a mistake, you can go back if you miss a read or something like that, or maybe get a number wrong. You can't do that in PA announcing. You have to be so meticulous in what you say because you're a relayer of information. And that's what it all boils down to. So it's a great skill set to have. I recommend anybody looking to do what Nate and I do with the play-by-play stuff on a regular basis that want to get more reps, don't hesitate trying to do public address announcing. It's a great way to keep your chops warm, to get reps, to keep busy, and one helps the other. I can guarantee you that.
And if you're looking to get involved in the broadcasting and the media side, even in our company, and you know, I've talked to a couple of different people about, what exactly that looks like, and I've recommended a few people. And to those of you out there who may be watching this show or you see a clip later, if this is something you're genuinely interested in, we're not really in a position here to be turning people away. We want to embrace that, and so this is a place where you can really do that. And you're right, to me, as someone who's done play-by-play for so long, it was that way, but I remember embracing it at least as recently as, a few months ago, doing the NAI Swim National Championships. And you don't actually kind of conceive how much of an impact you can have on the vibe in the building until you're really in it, until you really feel people react to things that you're saying and people really kind of embrace it. But you're right, it's a new level of pressure. And I'll say this, John, I think the one thing that's beautiful about what we do on the play-by-play side and us doing the state championship and league for clubs out in San Francisco and all the different leagues and even the high school leagues here in Michigan and Midwest Premier. I know we're going to be doing a lot of them coming up. The easy thing is my audience in a lot of ways is invisible. Your audience is very much not invisible. Actually, it's the opposite. And you had mentioned earlier how, and this was something that I remember when we went to the Columbus Crew Stadium to do a game a few years ago with JT. Just picturing that place filled up and being down on the field. I'm like, this must be a pretty cool environment to do this in. But you were actually reminiscing on that earlier, like in the middle of the game, or maybe I'm not sure when, but you actually had an opportunity to look around, and it's like, wow, like this is it. I'm down here. Like that has to also be a pretty powerful feeling to know that in one way or the other. I mean, it's like I'm seeing anything else. The vibe in that building is kind of on your shoulders.
To realize walking into an NBA gym, and for me, I'm such a fan. Like when you mentioned Barn, that resonates so much in my heart because I know in college basketball, Barnes around here, we got one right up there, Hinkle Fieldhouse, one of the most prestigious
That's Indiana
gyms in all of college basketball. I mean, I'm talking top 5.
Yep.
And that's because what they did before, not because of who they are now. But when teams come in there to play, they don't care about playing Butler. They want to play in Hinkle Fieldhouse. So they gear up for that. And walking into Gainbridge Fieldhouse, even though it's not Market Square or anything like that, back to the days you mentioned the Palace, it's not Market Square. But for me to realize who's been on that court, who was sitting on the scorer's table right in front of me, there was a time on a substitution where there was Miles Turner, Tyrese Halliburton, Andrew Nimhard sitting in front of me, and I had to watch the monitor because I couldn't see around them. You know what that does to me? And it took but concentrating on the game, because you have to, it's a fast game and you have to be on top of it, or they're never going to ask you back. But I got a chance, Nate, in the about beginning of right at the start of the third quarter. I just got a chance to look around, and you don't realize how big the building is until you see it filled with heads and bodies and people waving the flags, get ready for the third quarter and everything. And you're just in awe. And then you realize where you are on the court, where you're at half court, you are entertaining people, you're at an NBA game, and the seats across from you are $6,000-$7,000 seats, and they're paying you to do what you're doing. So it's just an amazing thing. And with the Indy 11, it's the same thing. We have the Brickyard Battalion that sits over. It's a they're trying very hard to bring that European feel to it, where they release smoke bombs on goals, and that, they're playing instruments. There's a tuba over there that plays. They got trumpets over there. It's a really, really cool atmosphere. It's on the south end of the end zone. I shouldn't say the end zone, the end line. And it's just great. They got the flags waving, everything. But then when you get a great team coming in there, when the 11 are playing well, they're all surrounded in the bowl. And you look over, because I'm higher, because soccer calling PA on the ground's extremely hard. You need to be high. But I stick my head out the window and I look, And I'm like, my God, where are we? This is Indiana, right? Like, this isn't, we're not in North Carolina or Charlotte or anything like that. This is Midwest, Indianapolis, Circle City, in the heart of Hoosier basketball land. And there's 7,000 people there. So it's a remarkable atmosphere for both. I mean, the Pacers, you can't beat it. It's an NBA team. It's the highest level of professional basketball in the world, which I'm so grateful to do. But the fact that the Indy 11's the highest level of professional soccer here in the state of Indiana, and to be able to be a part of that, it's just humbling. It's just such a humbling experience because you vibe off of the crowd. You're reading that room. I can't emphasize those three words enough. Reading the room is what makes a successful PA announcer.
So first of all, I wanted to say, Peter, it was also nice to meet you at the Crew Stadium. That was a good time going down there and covering those games. And obviously that's Lower.com Field is the place to be for games. They've really done a good job, especially with that new location. I know they had the old stadium, then they moved over to that one and everything about it. I will say, you didn't really touch on this in recent episodes, so I'm not quite sure. Maybe I'm towing the line here, but are you a Buckeye too, John Natale?
Like Ohio State?
Yeah, like Ohio State. Okay. All right. Good. Because
congratulations on being the first team in NCAA history to buy a national championship.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. Yay. No. All right. We're okay.
No, don't think I go across the state line and I'm rooting for Ann Arbor up there, the maize and gold, the blue and maize. Yep. I'm not doing that either. So don't you have to worry about that.
You're an equal opportunity hater. I get it.
I guess.
I brought a mini helmet and I left it there. So no, I thought it's just a funny little, troll job, but I will say that is a gorgeous facility. Peter goes, wow, was that an insult? Yeah, I would take it that way for sure. They couldn't have the playoffs without you, man. They're like, hey, more money. Let's have you charade around as a sixth seed. That's fun. But anyways, touching back on what we were talking about, we'll get into the soccer stuff here momentarily. I wanted to talk about another legendary public address announcer, if you will. He's the greatest at what he does. This guy, I don't know if maybe you've heard him before.
Make some noise for number 33, Miles Turner.
Boy, that sounds nice.
Clean.
And at guard in his third year in the NBA, standing at 6'3" from Gonzaga, number 2, Andrew Nimhard.
I'm feeling it over here.
It's a nice baritone. We'll be topping there.
Just coursing through my veins. Apparently they don't know where to walk.
Guard in its 5th year in the NBA, a 2-time All-Star, 6'5" from Iowa State, wearing 0, Tyrese Halliburton.
Clean.
I'm just saying that guy knew what he was doing. It's just messing around. So that's John Natale, who was filling in for that one game. So that probably had to be one of the more exciting moments. I imagine starting lineups is where you shine.
And see, that is the separation. And I don't want to put myself on any pedestal again. I can't believe how humbling it was. A bucket list of mine every time doing PA is get to the highest level. And there I did. You can't do 41 until you do 1. And that's in example 4. There's 41 home games in an NBA season, but you can't do 41 until you do 1. And I did 1, and I didn't even do it in my home state, nor my favorite team. I did it away. But it's when everybody says PA announcing and there's auditions and then you listen to them and you listen to other people and you're always studying, Nate, just like you. You listen to so many play-by-play people. You like what you said about pulling over and doing all these exercises and everything. There's people that you listen to just to kind of find your way and practicing and learning every day, standing in front of a mirror, looking at yourself. That's your hardest audience. Can you do a play-by-play thing? Can you do a PA announcing thing in front of your face, in front of a mirror? I think that's a very hard thing to do, but it gets you a long way. But everybody goes all out during the starting lineups, which is, 3-4 minutes long for both starters and visiting team. But then do you know the game after that? Mm-hmm. I've heard people do soccer starting lineups like it was a WWE match. Mm-hmm. And I get it, but that wouldn't fly over in Europe. It doesn't fly in Premier League. It really doesn't fly here.
Right.
I'm very respectful. I mean, I inflict my voice doing Indy 11, but I don't overdo it. I'm not shouting. It's not about me at that point. When there's a highlight video and then I have to announce the player's name and their number, it's not about me at that point. And these people, sometimes they really nail the starting intros. You're like, wow, that was great. But then they have to say, okay, the foul is on the Pacers, 0, Tyrese Halliburton. That's his first team second at the line, shooting 2 shots for the Utah Jazz. Number 2, Colin Sexton. Can you get all that out repetitively through 4 quarters of basketball without screwing up? It's things like that. Knowing corners, knowing the difference between a foul and a penalty. It's simple things like that. The 18, the 6, the 12. Do people know that part of the game? And that's what we're all talking about, of how the average fan really doesn't know that about soccer. So a PA announcer is not only guiding them through what's happening, but it's a teaching moment too. To say, oh, I didn't know it was 18 yards out. I didn't know a penalty kick was 12 yards out. I didn't know that the box where the goalkeeper stands is six yards. So it really is more important than it is a thankless job. I'll tell you that right off the bat, as far as your supervisors and anybody else walking around. And the same thing you hear from day in and day out is, well, I've got 10,000 things going on, and I'm not really concerned about you. So it's kind of like, well, I want to know how I'm doing, but at the same time, you got to take it as, you know what, they believe in you. They have that belief that they know you're doing the right thing. So they don't have to be up there. They don't have to babysit you. They don't have to be over your shoulder, calling up every 2 seconds on the microphone and the walkie-talkie. Oh, you're doing this, you're doing that, stuff of that nature. So it's, again, doing stuff like that, starting line was fantastic. I mean, when the Flames came out, when they ran out, my face almost burned off because you're so close. But once you get it over and tip-off happens, you go. It's just, there's 10 guys on a court, just as you were doing a girls' basketball game. If you were doing a boys' basketball game, whatever, it's the same thing. It's 90 feet. The rims are 10 foot high. 2 points for 2, 3 at behind the arc. It's the same thing. And you got to keep that perspective of it, that it's a game at that point. But don't lose that excitement. Whenever you do it, just have a smile on your face. Embrace where you are, but know that you still have a job to do. I guess that's the best way to put it.
And this, by the way, this applies to everything that we do. This also applies to the soccer game as well. And I know we've talked heavily about, the basketball side of things, but again, this applies to that other side at the same exact time. And it's interesting you say that, because depending on where you are, there are different styles. I listen to the MASL, and we cover the MASL. Chihuahua Savage just won their 3rd straight, looking to make it 4 straight come next year. Maybe if they get a new head coach in there, who knows? But, they've done it 3 straight years with 3 different head coaches. But the one thing that I'll say is that the down there, when they broadcast their games and on the channel that's, Spanish only, and their broadcaster really leans into that whole, when they score, holding out that goal note for very, very long. Like, that's his thing, and you see that a lot of times with different broadcasters in different parts of the world. Here in the United States, I guess we don't see nearly as much of that. I know what John loves to do. What I love to do is I love to punch the name of the player that's scoring the goal. So if it's Pulisic, I'm probably going to say Pulisic, and I'm going to hold that for a few seconds and then finish off my call. He's very different because of the region that he's in. So depending on where you're at, depending on what part of the country you're in, that really does, I think, impact the way that you go about saying and doing those things. I think it certainly does have an impact. And like you said, Indiana basketball it's almost religion down there. It's really what it is. But at the same time, and I wanted to talk about Indy 11, you could also argue that the soccer culture is very much alive and well too. And, you've had, I would say, an interesting couple of weeks too. So you get that NBA game, but then you also get the US Open Cup games. And the last one they had there, you want to talk about just, the barn burner, I think, is pretty accurate. They win that one 1-0. You could talk about the situation and how it went down. I know we talked a little bit off the air about that, but we can, chat about the MLS and their kind of half commitment to this tournament and how maybe it's not the best of the best, but I still think there's something to be said about getting butts and seats and just getting people to come out and watch a soccer game. And I think that matchup at least lived up to the hype.
I tell you, I've watched a lot of soccer in my day, and to know that, or just to be a part of that, was so, gosh, I don't even know how to put it. So it started off the way that we had talked about, where Indy 11, knowing that Miami FC is kind of at the bottom of the USL Championship, and we didn't have our usual starters in there: Aiden Stanley, Aiden Quinn, Jack Blake, Malik Foster, Hunter Salt, and Cole, players like that. But the guys that were out there, the 11 that started the match, they played their tails off because they knew that, hey, I can get an opportunity and we can run with this.
Mm-hmm.
If someone gets hurt or whatever, Coach McCauley knows that he can call on me and I can come and I can do a bang-up job. And they did. They played solid defense. The offensive, there were lots of opportunities for both teams that they just missed open goals. And that's just based on, I don't want to say skill level, but that's opportunity in those situations. You're 1v1 versus a keeper. What are you going to do? You freeze up because you're not used to, like Jack Blake. If he's 1v1, he knows he's already playing chess with that keeper. By the time he gets in front of the 18 and keeper comes out, Jack knows what he's going to do. Some of these other guys, it's, oh my gosh, my first opportunity to do this. What am I going to do? And they send it wide or they send it high or whatever. They pull their head up and the ball goes like they're kicking a field goal from 30 yards out.
Yep.
But to go 2 halves of 0-0 soccer, to go 0-0 in the first overtime, to go 0-0 in the second overtime, 3 minutes, Nate, 3 minutes of added time. In the 123rd minute, on a corner, head ball into the left side of the net, Indy 11 wins on the touch from the half line to kick off the next possession. 123rd minute. And the birthday boy, number 33, celebrated his birthday.
Wow.
That day.
Wow.
So, I mean, it was like the soccer gods were like, okay, Indianapolis, here you go. Here's a fine match for you.
Right.
So it was absolutely incredible and pushes them to the round of 32. And they've got to play a tough one. They're going back to MLS. They had the amazing win last year against Atlanta United. They're now 1-3 against MLS teams. Philadelphia SC now 5-1-3 in MLS standings. And it's going to be tough. They're going to be playing at the Subaru Center. But they're there. They get more experience against an MLS team. I'm pretty sure that the guys, Jack Blake, Stanley, Salt, all those guys are going to beg McCauley, say, I don't care. I want to play. I want to get that experience. Maybe Philadelphia SC might see something and want to get us off the roster. But just an incredible win for them. And, to retro back to you and what you kind of start out with MSN and NSN and all this soccer that happens in Michigan, not really the hotbed of soccer when you think of the nation, but you guys are going on to Detroit FC, are going to play over, you're heading west,
right?
Going to Chicago to play the Chicago Fire in the round of 32. So how did that match go?
Yeah, the truth is, the nice thing about, I'll say that is, the Chicago Detroit dynamic is really fun, and that's something that I think a lot of people are highlighting. And obviously we talked about kind of the Michigan Ohio matchup as well. Taking them on in the round of 32 will be really cool to see. And that's just, again, it's they advanced to that round, that 3-1 win against USL League One side and Westchester SC back on April the 16th. Detroit City FC did. They've looked really good in the last couple of years. And so the one thing I'm interested to see, and it's the reason why I wanted to talk to you a lot about kind of what you do. And I'm more of an interview style kind of guy. I'll be the first to admit it's something that I think is great to use this platform for, to get new people on, to interview them and see, from their perspective, the game from their angle, how they see it, how they experience it. The one thing that I'm curious about, now I'm sure the Detroit City FC guys are all sorts of jacked to be able to go play the Chicago Fire. I mean, not only just to play an MLS side, but also do it in Chicago. And also, I mean, you don't have to go too terribly far. I mean, it's right there, and it's a great Midwest matchup. But how much, in terms of, because as a play-by-play experience, and I remember talking to all of our minor leaguers this exact same way. Every time I come in before a season, the first thing we always tell them is we understand that there's some of that intrinsic, maybe distrust of the media, because of, the way the media can be sometimes. I mean, you look at the national media, you look at, Stephen A. Smith and some of those other guys and having beef with players. And it's almost like a drama that's like playing out in real time, a real life drama. That's not the same as what we do. As a play-by-play broadcaster, I'm the team's media. As a public address announcer, you are there for the team. You're not there to dig up dirt or to put anyone on blast. That's not what we do. We're there to elevate the brand and the experience itself. And part of that is being able to actually maybe know the guys personally, to be able to interact with them. And the truth is when I look at this, and I know it is frustrating, and I wish the MLS sent their best. I wish that we would fully embrace a tournament like this. And maybe it comes down to having a bigger, more prize money, maybe more incentive for them at the end of the day. Because I think, with it being a closed league structure, they don't want to risk some of the assets they have to send them to play in this tournament. But I imagine getting to play against an MLS side is an extremely exciting opportunity. Do you have a pulse on that at all? Do you get to interact with these guys at all between matches? I mean, what does the relationship from public address announcer to team look like with Indy 11?
There's really none, unfortunately, because you're not. You have so many people on the ops side that deal with all that stuff. Your VP of marketing, your director of operations, VP of operations, everything like that. But I think there's a mutual respect, because I've never had a player or a comment from one of my superiors come and say, well, you didn't say their name right. You didn't do this right. They want you to say it like this. I've never had any of that. On goal celebrations, what I do, I've never had a complaint about that. It's a tradition. What they do on corners is Michael A. Carroll Stadium. It's a very, very old stadium, but it's metal bleachers around the whole thing. So on corners, they start banging it and it resonates, man. You talk about metal in an old stadium that resonates through, that sounds really cool. But I caught on to that real quick. And so I play to that. And knowing that gets the players amped for a chance in goal from that way. And then when they score, I think I've set up my call that they anticipate that. And that's what I hope, is that, hey, if I score, people are going to know I scored. It's not going to take 2 seconds or a few seconds and maybe get the name wrong, get the minute wrong, miss the assist, anything like that. I mean, I take great detail on that, because at that time, as you mentioned, where around the world and mostly in the Latino leagues, is that the goal, the resonation of holding that goal, that's kind of been the focal point of Latino soccer, which I think is incredible. Some of those guys, it's like they're going their whole half of just go, and it just goes, but it works so perfect. And with me, I do my call. The fans get into it. The players are cheering. Nobody looks up at the booth and like that and looks at me like, what in Sam Nation was that? Doing? All right, like, come on, man. But as far as interacting, I really don't have to. The guys that are out there are equal in my mind. If Jack Blake scores a goal, you gotta to do it a little bit more juice to it. But for instance, on the game winner the other night, that was the most exciting goal scorer I ever did, because I jumped out of my chair. That's another thing too in soccer. Nate, when you're calling a game, or when I'm calling a game on NSN, or I'm doing PA announcing or whatever it is, the goals are limited. It's not basketball where you score 50 times a game. It's not baseball where, yes, it might be a low scoring game, but how many hits may you have? But you can still turn that around if it's a great pitching performance of, hey, this guy's throwing a no-no and we're in the 6th, buckle up. We've got something here.
Right.
So there's a lot happening with soccer. Oh, that was a great pass. No one ever says that unless it leads to a goal or a bicycle kick that maybe just went over the crossbar, hit the post or something like that.
Right.
So when you get that goal, the natural instinct, especially being the home PA announcer or home play-by-play, is to get excited. So it comes out and the crowd can hear that. And that's an exciting part. And so that's where I leave our relationship up with the players.
That's fair.
Is that if they're celebrating on the field and they feel good about it and the crowd gets in, that's what they want. It's one thing for me to say it. It's how the crowd reacts to it. If the crowd is dead, if you score a great goal and the crowd is dead because they couldn't tell or it looked like it was in, or whatever the case, and I've seen that happen, that it's not worth it. So whatever you can do to get the crowd control, to get the crowd into it, going back to those things of like John Mason, getting the crowd into it, the players will respect that. Is anybody going to come up the impossible Satan stairs, as I call them, at Michael A. Carroll Stadium to give me a fist bump? Absolutely not. But the fact that if I can do for them to get them excited because it gives them adrenaline, it gives them energy, it gives them that extra oomph during a match, then I think we're on the same page personally.
I want to touch on one last thing about your public address announcing stuff that you're going on. I want to also take a look at U.S. Open Cup. I know we also wanted to chat about college recruiting and some of the hotbeds in the United States. But from what I understand, at least what we were talking off air, and I'll let you kind of detail what this looks like. But you got another MC gig coming up on May the 3rd. What does that look like for you?
So, well, this is, see, I've hit the trifecta, but in kind of an odd way. You know, I have a lot of bucket list things here in Indiana, and it's hard because I'm not a lifelong Hoosier. Being a Cleveland guy, I came here, and there's a lot of great established play-by-play guys here, public address announcers, everything like that. And it's hard just to break in. It's not that I'm not limiting myself and saying, oh, I'm not as good as them or anything like that. It's just I can't go to those backstories of small town Indiana and when things started, or we were playing against a barn with a peach basket and we were shooting until it was 11 o'clock at night and stuff like that. I don't have those stories. But as I'm gradually growing along and trying to become a play-by-play guy and setting my foot in the stone there, that's why I kind of went over to PA announcing, because I felt, well, I got a voice for it. So let's see if I can learn on that. It's going to get me more gigs. And heck, in 3 years, I'm doing NBA games, which I never thought possible. So I've hit that pinnacle here. Right. And then emceeing. And emceeing is, I think, a combination of the two. Because you are entertaining, but you're out on you're right in the middle of the field, and you got to get the crowd to keep them amped the whole entire game. So we just recently got an IFL team in an indoor football league. And for anybody who may be not familiar with that team, let's just go back to 1999, the old Kurt Warner story with the Iowa Barnstormers. He's a bag boy at your local Safeway, and then playing for the Iowa Barnstormers, comes into the league, and now he's a Hall of Famer and all that kind of stuff. So that's the league that we just got a team this year. And I have a coach character that I created in minor league baseball a few years ago with the Louisville Bats, carried over to the Oklahoma City Dodgers. And as much as I love doing it, that commute, I was commuting back and forth to Oklahoma City doing this. So it was tough. And I've been trying to get it here in Indianapolis. And it's a coach character. And that coach character is every coach that you and I either had or knew somebody that had: the dad shoes, knee-high socks, 3 stripes, bikey pants, the fanny pack, the tight polo, the visor, big bushy caterpillar.
I can already hear him yelling at me from the stand.
Yeah. Just, I mean, the most
deep inside,
not in shape person, but somehow knew everything about every sport possible.
Everything everywhere.
Like a canasta tournament could come into town, and this coach would know what was going on with it. But so they brought me out as kind of an audition on the this past Saturday, and about 5,200 in attendance, and Nate, just like public address announcing, but I was in front and I controlled that crowd, and it was unbelievable. And then I got feedback on Monday that they want to bring me back as the full-time MC to do it. And that's going to begin on their next home game, May the 3rd. And oh, could it be just a better day in my world as far as Star Wars night.
Oh.
And Obi-Wan Kenobi is going to show up full regalia, lightsaber and all, and just have a. I'm already planning. It's 2 weeks away, and I mean, my head is just exploding with ideas and everything like that. So we're gonna hit. It's the third. There's 7 professional teams here in Indiana. This will be the third, or in Indianapolis. This will be the third one that I get to do something for. So I'm kind of knocking down those pegs in the order. And what's cool about it is that one of the 4th teams of that 7 is the Indy Fuel. It's the ECHL of the Chicago Blackhawks. And they are owned by the same ownership as the Freight. So if this coach thing goes well and all this kind of stuff, that could be my 4th next year. They're in the playoffs now. And but it's playing the same building. It's a beautiful facility built. It got up last October, Fisher's Event Center. And it's just,
yeah,
you know, I try to get as much credibility and respect as I can as a public address announcer and a play-by-play guy. But I look at myself in that costume. I saw pictures, and the photographer took pictures of me, and I'm like, people are cheering for this. It's like, what the heck? This outfit cost me $3.99.
Oh,
but a great experience, and I'm so happy to be getting involved in that.
that's awesome. Well, Peter said need photos. I'm not sure. I'm guessing photos of when you do it. So if you have any photos from that, please feel free to share.
I'm sure
but I will show you guys a couple of photos. You know what? I was going to talk about the U.S. Open Cup stuff, but I got another question for you very quickly after I show what I'm about to show, and we can actually wrap up the show on that. I'm assuming JT will be back with us, by the way, coming up tomorrow, episode 70, right here on Inside the Game. But for those of you who are curious, here is Kurt Warner playing indoor football, arena league football, if you will. They actually, I guess they had a game on PlayStation back.
Oh
in the
my
day,
gosh, I didn't
Warner's
even know about that.
Arena Football Unleashed. I've never, and I used to have a PS1. I used to have.
So we all did. Everybody did. It came with samples of Tide in the mail.
There's
the Taco John's sponsorship
advertisement. So
you don't see that on cards. Look at those pads, boy.
Talking to Coach, yeah, that's old school if I've ever seen anything. So just
there. See, that's the picture. Go back to that one picture. Yeah.
Is this the one you're looking at right
here?
Yeah,
because that's where he played his arena ball, and then there he is with the trophy, the champion Rams shirt. That's incredible.
And then obviously there's him in the NFL, and just what a journey. I mean, to go from that to there, and he's one of the more exceptional stories in NFL history, I will say. The one thing I'll try to do here, and we used to have a team in Grand Rapids too, and I remember going, and to your point, it is very much like it is a concert. Maybe not necessarily because people don't take it as seriously as actual football, but it is only 50 yards. It is inside. You do have half the amount of players. So it's arena sports, it really allows you the opportunity to kind of lean into the entertainment aspect. I see that with the MASL too. I mean, when we're down in a game in Chihuahua, and I did their game against the San Diego Sockers during the regular season, I mean, cheerleaders and just, pyrotechnics and, people doing all this other stuff. And it's what really brings the crowd to life. And I think they love it down there. My question is, as someone who is on, the front lines and doing public address announcing for Indy 11, something that JT and I talked about on previous episodes was, in order to get people in the stands, in order to get people there to just see the game, which it's, in my opinion, and again, I'm not everybody, I think the most important thing that we can do, I don't care if it's a youth game, I don't care if it's the highest level in the United States, if we can just get people in the building to watch a soccer game, we've done our jobs. Like, we've crossed off that box. If people are going out of their way to watch a soccer game, doesn't matter what that looks like. If they're in the building and if they're having a good experience, they're going to end up coming back. And I say the same thing about minor league ball. You know, you'll have, and it's funny because one of the biggest Tigers followers of Tigers baseball, his name's Jed on Twitter, Jed UK. He's not from here. He's from the UK. And he tweeted out once, he goes, you know, minor league fans confuse me. He goes, are they there to see the team win? Are they really invested in the prospects? And I'm like, you might have a few. You might have a few. There's a few that come out. You know, like we have a guy in West Michigan, but that's a smidgen of the overall population, which is there for the promotions, which is there for Bluey and Bingo, which is like this generation's SpongeBob. I mean, me growing up, it was SpongeBob. Now it's Bluey and Bingo. You know, you have, you know, the on-field entertainers, and you have the food. Food's another big thing too, and we talked in length about that. How much flexibility is there in your mind? Just because you're in this environment all the time, and again, a lot of the stuff that I do is remote. I do get to go in person from time to time, but being in that environment, especially in a place that's popular like Indy 11, JT and I said that maybe one of the things that soccer can do is make it more of an entertainment-based product, almost like a rock concert. Now, I wouldn't go to that extent. I mean, you don't want to have a live concert while there's a game going on, but you know, how much flexibility is there on that side in your mind to actually kind of dress that up a little bit more just to get more people in the stands?
Well, Peter wanted a picture, and I found my Twitter that I just created yesterday. How do I show it? Do I hit present here, share screen, and I'm going to do this and share. Do we see it? Did I do it right?
Go. There we go, right there. Yep, it's up on the screen right now.
Yeah.
Hey, gang, first post here on the. Okay. That's great.
So there it is.
That's pretty accurate, John. I mean, I'm not gonna lie.
There you go.
I think you nailed it.
So that was 60 minutes of football, and yeah, so it does exist. I wasn't kidding.
So there's a little bit of acting involved, kind of.
Oh, it's all.
You know,
I tell you, you talk about, you know, when the red light goes on, and
anything is possible with hustle and dedication. Appreciate that, Peter. Yeah,
thank you, Peter. I appreciate that, my friend. But like when the red light goes on, when I'm coach, John Natale disappear. It is a completely different animal. My spontaneity, the way I interact with people. I'm not the biggest fan of kids as far as the hooligans, so to speak. So when they act out at a game, I yell at them as coach, but I'm literally yelling at them as me. It's like a stage to get it out. Like, get your feet off the furniture. You wouldn't do this at home. But I'm literally yelling at them because I think it's disrespectful and just stuff like that.
That's fair.
To your point, when I was in Oklahoma City and going into the ninth inning, if the Dodgers were down, I had brought my drum set, a live drum set, out to Oklahoma City. And we put it on the third balcony, put two spotlights crossing it, had a fog machine behind me. And I did coach, but I dressed up like a rocker. So I had a wig, I had a headband, I had a black Dodgers jersey that had coach on the back in KISS font, put on the James Hetfield headbands, cut off jeans, black jeans, the tube socks that had black stripes. And I played along to Enter Sandman up on the third balcony live. So did it go over very well? Yes, it did. It went over extremely well. And I do have pictures. Maybe on the next one, I can show pictures of that.
There we go.
But I think you're exactly right. And I think this is what's missing in all of the I don't want to say semi-pro, but not your big four, not the NHL, not NBA, not MLS, MLB, NBA, whatever, is that you do, because it's hard to gravitate towards players at these leagues because they go back and forth all the time. There's few lifers in there who make a difference.
Mhm.
And if they're good enough, you're not going to see them anymore. And that's at every level. That's at AAA baseball. That's at single A baseball. That's at the USL championship. It's the UPSL. When these players are good, they're only there for a short amount of time. It's almost like a rented player. So you have to do everything in your power to draw people to that environment. Make the game a second, like, okay, you're coming for a hamburger that has Krispy Kreme buns, has another donut in the middle, has bacon, is deep fried, and then covered in icing. Like that's the appeal to some of these things. And then the promotions where it's fan engagement. I don't care how good the product is, even at the higher levels, even at MLS levels, even Premier League. I'll go as far as saying that 80,000 people, what are you going to do for them? Like, what's in it for them? What's the incentive? They just spent 80, 90, 100, however much money it is to watch a game. I can do that in the comforts of my home for free. I can eat my own chips. I can make my own hamburger, do whatever. Right. What's the enticement to come out to Michael A. Carroll Stadium to watch the 11? I don't know where Detroit FC plays, but what's the enticement to go out there to watch a match outside of the soccer? Because if you wanted to, you could go up the street to the local middle school where the youth are playing, the 4 to 5-year-olds who will chase a soccer ball for 3 seconds. Butterfly pops out of the lawn, goes that way, and the kids run towards that thing for free. And it's honestly more entertaining because it's funny. That's why. So I think you've hit it right on the top of the head of the nail, Nate, is that Jonathan, JT's right too. There needs to be a more entertainment factor to it because there has to be a draw. Always has a rock concert. I'll go back to it. Look at Kiss. If Kiss just went up there and just played their music, you'd be like, oh, all right, well, that's cool. But that's why I got fireballs being thrown at me, and Gene Simmons is spitting fire and spitting blood, and Ace Frehley is shooting rockets out of his guitar and explode. I mean, that's what it is. That's the excitement. The music you listen to every day. I'm sure you probably have the same playlist for 20 years. I've listened to the same stuff since 2001. I haven't changed my playlist, but it's because of that intrigue. A great example is Slipknot. I love Slipknot, but their show is amazing because just everything. There's 9 guys on that stage, but everybody's got a different part, and the explosions and the lights hitting at the right time and everything. So you're dead on. You and JT are dead on that. There needs to be a way to invoke more incitement for the fan. It doesn't matter. Star power doesn't carry an MLS like it does the NBA or the NFL. It just doesn't. I mean, Messi, the lone exception, because they just played the Crew or playing the Crew. They had to move the game to Cleveland Brown Stadium, because the Crew Stadium couldn't handle the tickets. He's going to sell out an 80,000 seat stadium. But other than that, if Christian Pulisic came up to play the Crew or whatever team he's on and played them, would they move it to Cleveland Stadium? Probably not. So, I mean, that's the thing, you know?
Right. Yeah.
That's
What little things can you do just to get people to come out and watch? Because that's really all we can do. I mean, control the controllables, right? And I know that all takes staffing and money. Peter also adds, what's missing is including the fans into the game, like John is doing. Chocolate-covered bacon. Interesting. All right.
No,
I like that.
It's a delicacy here in Indiana. I can. We have a lot of. We dip everything in, I should say they, because I still don't consider myself a Hoosier, but they dip everything in chocolate. If it's edible, bouillon cubes, kale, quinoa. If they can dip it in chocolate, then so be it.
Veggies and chocolate. I got to try it. I don't know if that works. Peter also goes OMG. I love it. John, you look like one of the Bears fans from SNL. He looks like Ditka. Uh-oh. Does he have his apparel? I think that's what he's breaking out right now, or breaking out something. Oh, there we go. Oh, you're kidding me. You actually have the picture itself. That's amazing. That's great. Was that hanging on the wall? Did you just take it off the wall, or are you still yet to hang that one up?
We're moving.
So, okay. All right. Oh, wow. And there you are in the background. Goodness gracious, John. That's cool.
There's plenty more over here. I'll give you one last one.
Kind of jealous of your man cave.
Respect to you, Nate. Well, yeah, in respect to you, Nate, because you're a baseball guy.
Oh, let's go, Gibby. I didn't know you were there. Wow, cool. You were right down on the field, too.
I'm telling you. I've done a little bit of everything. He's a man of many trades. He travels well, gets involved in a lot of things. So clearly, I go a little bit overboard with that character, but it's stuff like that where, I mean, to get in front of a green screen and just pose and then see that kind of stuff. Again, like you laugh at that, what you just did and what Pete's saying and everything like that. That's the goal. It's all about the fans at the end of it. Put a smile on their face. And how do you do that? I think that's a great conversation to have that you and JT can have tomorrow or in the 70th episode or whatever. Is what do you do at a soccer match outside of the soccer? What's going on in the stands? What are the activations on the field? How much attention are you paying to the fan that is basically paying for your club to show up, to wear their gear, to shop their merch, to eat their food, everything like that? I think that's a great conversation to have in the future.
I think some people might think it distracts from it. I think it adds to it, to be completely honest with you. John says, I love you. So it looks like you got a brand new fan, too, by the way.
All right, Peter.
You and I are fan, and Peter.
Like Wave Cats in high school. We go way back, Peter and I.
Appreciate you joining me, though. Again, episode 70 coming up tomorrow on Inside the Game, 9 to 10 a.m. here on the National Soccer Network. John, we got to start having you on more often. I appreciate getting the chance to chat with you. I know I'm down in Indy quite a bit, mostly in South Bend, but hopefully down the line here I can start working on you with some stuff. But at least, hey, we're all in the same boat of just trying to grow the game from the bottom up, which I think, here in the U.S. is the only way you really can do it. Figure out a way to get more Americans to come out and watch more Americans. Yeah, do we have the same talent as they have overseas? No. Do we have the culture? No. But we have to figure out our own unique way of getting people to buy into it. And I think we have some good models with at least some of the other sports and some of the other minor league teams that we see. So appreciate you hopping on. Again, come back tomorrow, episode 70. Thanks again, though, John, for your time.
Appreciate it, everybody. Have a great one.
Yes, sir. Big number 70 coming up tomorrow. And until we talk to you guys then, so long, everybody.
This has been a presentation of the National Soccer Network.